So hello and welcome back to the channel. So in the last video in our clean architecture series, we looked about how to add an item to our remote database by calling our add to do use case. Now in this video, we'll be looking at how to list those items we added in real time. So the first thing we have to do is to change the method's signature of our list to do. So when you come to our repositories, we have to do repository. Now in this to do repository, we have a method for listing out the to-dos in our database, and that method is get all. But then this get all method is just a feature that returns a list of to do if everything goes on well. The problem with this is that when we call this method, it's not going to give us the to do in real time. So it means when the user adds a new to do, it's not going to be displayed to the user in real time. We would have to fetch the whole to dos again or have a workaround. So what we could do to fix that is, instead of returning just a list of to do, we can return a stream of a list of to do, right? So the first refactoring will start from the to do repository, where we are going to return a stream of the list of to-dos instead of just a list of to-do. So we are going to maintain this future either failure or a stream of a list of to-do. So we are first going to cut this and replace it with a stream, and then put in this like this. So that's going to cause errors in our code because we are not expecting a stream of a list of to-do, but just a list of to do. So let's first start fixing these errors, and then the first place we would have to look at is where we are implementing this to do repository. So in the domain repositories to do repository implementation, this we are expecting to return a list, so make sure you cut it well. So a stream like this, right? And then this results from the remote database is not a stream, so we have to go to the remote database and then change the return type to a stream, because we need a stream of a list of to-dos. And then over here we have to also change this to a stream, and this can't be async, it has to be async star because of the stream. Now we can't return this to do because this get method returns a future, so we have to rewrite this to do to return a stream, and we are going to use yield. So the change is going to be Firebase Firestore targeting the to-dos collection dot snapshots. So instead of dot get, we're going to use dot snapshots. Now this is going to return us a stream of query snapshot which has the data we want. So we are going to map that stream. So each stream emitted has some docs on it, right? And that's the document we want. That's what's actually containing our document. So what we are doing is we are mapping again over the document, and then we are converting each document to a to-do class. So we realize that we have a form map on our to-do, so we call the form map and then pass in the data. Then later we have to convert everything to a list because the map operation does not return a list by default. So this will yield a to do, which is a stream, a list of to do stream. In our to do repository implementation, we don't need to await this, right? So we can just put this in a variable and then return the results like this, right? Because this return a stream, so we could just pass this stream, return right and pass in the stream. Now we will have another error in our use case because our use case is expecting a list of to do which takes in low params, but in this time around we are not going to make it a list, we are going to make it a stream of this, right? And now we would have to generate this again, so I'm going to clean it and then create one missing override, right? So that is going to create a new function for me, and then I can return the old repository.getAll, which now returns a stream. So in order to, this will be the whole refactoring. In order to use this, we have to first come to our controller where we'll be calling this. So back in our to-do controller, we would have to refactor this. So I'm going to cut this and then create a file and put it in. So then I'm going to import that. So I've imported this from a file I've created so that we don't have to put it in our controller. So let's have our list to do use case. So create a variable for that, and that's going to be a list to do use case, and import that, and we have to require that in a constructor. So require this list to do use case, and then let's have a method that actually calls this list to do use case. So just like we had the add to do over here, we are going to have a string which has the type of list of to do, and we are going to call it let's say retrieve, or list to do. List to do is not bad, so let's make it async star like this. The first thing we are going to do is to create a variable. So just like we had a results over here, we are going to create a variable results that is going to call this list to do use case. So final results, and then we are going to await list to do use case, and then passing no params, right? So no params is a class we created that doesn't take in any params, and if I inspect that, unfortunately we are taking something over here, so I'm going to clear that. So no params is just an empty class here, and then what this method is going to do is that just like how we yielded in the remote database, we are going to do the same over here. So we are going to yield results.fold, right? And the fold method returns a left side and then a right side. The left side referring to our failure, and the right side referring to our value. So results.fold, and then we have the failure argument over here, and if there is an error, we first want to print the failure.message, show a snack bar, and then we want to return stream.value empty, right? So what this means is that if there is any failure, we just want to return an empty array. Now if there is no failure and we actually have the to do, we just want to return this to do that we have like this, and this is going to be the method for listing the to do. But then realize we have an error, and if you check in the file, you realize the bindings have an error. So that's where we do our injection, dependency injection. So back in our bindings, realize that we are missing the list to do use case passed into the to do controller. So just like we did for this guy, the add to do use case, we are going to have our list to do use case and call get.find. But then we have to make sure we actually inject this list to do use case. So I'm going to copy this line over here, and then instead of injecting the add to do use case, I'm going to inject the list to do use case like this. So just like I did for add to do use case, the get.find is going to look for the repository which we've already injected over here, right? So there's no need to injecting that one again, and the repository is going to look for the database which we've injected over here. So that will fix the error. And now let's call this list to do method in our UI. So back in the home, instead of just having a center text over here, we are going to have a body which is have a stream builder, and then the stream is going to be our controller.list to do, and then the builder, which is going to be the function that returns our UI. So we first have to return something at all costs, but then what we want to do is we want to return a circular progress indicator for now. So this is when we are loading, right? So when I save, we are getting an error because our to do doesn't have the list to do use case. What we have to do is to just hot restart, and that should fix it. Right, so we now have our circular progress indicator, and what you want to do is you want to check if you have data. Right, so if you are using the stream builder, there is a way to check if we have data or if we are loading. So you can check for the state in which you are in. By default, I want to show the loading indicator until we have some sort of data. So if snapshot dot has data, so if we have data, then it means we want to return something else, right? So our data is going to be snapshot dot data, and this data is going to be a list of to do which is nullable. But then when we have the data, we are 100% sure we are going to have a list of to do. So I'm going to use the now assertion operator, and then let's return a list view builder, right, which takes in the item count is the number of to do's we have. So we can rename this variable to do's. Yeah, so this the item count is going to a number of to do's we have, and then to do's index, right? So we are looping over the to do's using the list view builder, and then for each particular to do, we are picking the text and then the subtitle, the description. So when I save, realize we have this to do shown on the screen. So let's try adding a new to do to see if that works. So add a to do right, and now let's add this to do, and then you realize that we immediately see it over here. Go to the market, and then I'll go to the market to buy some stuff, and that's because we are listening to the to-dos collection in real time using the snapshot method, right? If you don't use the snapshot and use the get, that's going to return a future, and the UI is not going to be updated in real time when there is a change in the collection. We want to add an edit and delete button over here. So in our trailing, we can have a row, and then with some children and two icon buttons. So the first one will be our edit button, and then the second one will be our delete button. And then when we save, realize that everything is missing. So in order to fix that, we have to change the main axis size to main axis size.min. Also, the splash radius is too much for the buttons, they are too huge, so I'm going to reduce them to 20. Right, so we're going to have splash radius of 20 for both of them, and then add my const everywhere as well. So what we would want to do is when we tap on these buttons, we want to edit or delete these to-dos, and we are going to look at how to do that in the next video. So if you like this clean architecture series, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more future videos, then subscribe as well, and I will see you in the next one.